Hey everybody, Puzzle Max here, and I just got a package from zcube.com that I am really excited about. I've already done the tape because I have horrible camera angle for unboxing traditionally, so I'm going to set this aside, pull things out as I go here, and just kind of explain what I've got, and hopefully it'll be just as much fun as I'm expecting. So, get that out of the way for a minute. The box is packaged well. I haven't had any issues with zcube stuff, so receipts there, and some extra bubble wrap, all the good stuff. Okay, first things first. This is a puzzle that I am really intrigued about because honestly, I didn't even know it was a thing until I was just browsing the website and came across this 1x3x3. It's a floppy cube, but it's not like your traditional floppy cube, from what I understand. On a standard 3x3x1 floppy cube, such as this one from my old collection, you can do 180-degree turns all around these axes. But once you've done a turn, everything else is blocked up adjacent to it. Can't make anything else there. But apparently, this one has a unique mechanism which allows you to make 90-degree turns like that, and then as long as you have an edge, I should be able to make another 90-degree turn and then continue moving from there, and then continue moving here if I wanted to, for example. So now I've got a shape-shifted floppy cube. Again, like I said, I didn't even know this was a thing, and it's really cool. As far as I know, you can't use just I call them corners because they've got that kind of location. Those can't do anything. I can't rotate those. You have to have, but the edges by themselves you can turn. So I can do that and really screw things up as I'm going if I wanted to. So as long as you've got an edge with a corner, then you can continue making turns. I don't even want to scramble this right yet. I just want to kind of wrap my head around it first. But I have a feeling this is going to be not a difficult solve, but it's going to be there's going to be some more thinking involved because it's just the way it shapeshifts and things like that. It's going to add some interesting aspects to your standard floppy cube solve. So it was inexpensive and it looked really cool. Quality seems to be great. It's built well. Everything's holding together through the turns. So I like that. I'm a fan. Very cool puzzle. I'm glad I picked this one up. Definitely a fun addition for sure. Up next, here we go. This is the unicorn cube. This one in black plastic with nice stickered faces. I actually have this puzzle already. But I have the stickerless version. And I picked up the crazy unicorn cube, and the crazy one is black plastic with stickers. And sitting next to the stickerless regular unicorn cube, the black plastic stickered one just looked so much better. So I figured it was worth an upgrade. So I know how to solve this. It's a very fun puzzle. It's not terribly difficult. This one, little excess lube here. There's some sticky, greasy stuff on the sides, but it turns very well right out of the box. Nice and smooth, and it does definitely look better than the stickerless one, in my opinion. So I'm glad I picked this up. Also in here, I've got two of the crazy 2x2 cubes. These are from Dayan MF8, and these work on a really interesting mechanism that I actually wasn't too aware of until I picked up the crazy 4x4 that works as kind of with one of these as the base mechanism. Now these two are the 011 and the 001, and there's a 000 version, which is more closely related to the crazy 4x4 that I referenced, which is this. On this one, these pieces are connected across from each other. So this red and this orange across from each other are connected and works all the way around. I don't know if that mechanism plays true on these, but after playing with the 000 and playing with that 4x4, I knew that I had to get these in my collection to complete the crazy 2x2 series. So I'm looking forward to playing around with these. I'm going to set these aside in a second. I'll open up all the plastic and then kind of give a better review of how things turn and how things move. So let's just get everything out of this main box first. And lastly, I've got the entire Dion Bermuda Cube series. These have been out for quite some time. They're pretty well known in the puzzle community, and I'm actually surprised it's taken me this long to get them into my collection. So we've got Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. So all 8 of them. And these work completely different than your standard, like, crazy 3x3s or anything like that. Instead of having circles cut out on the faces, these ones have faces that are different shapes. The main mechanism underneath is still a 3x3, but in order for that 3x3 to turn, you've got to get some of the faces positioned politely with one another so that they can work together. And I've played around with a couple of these on the virtual app that I have, and it wasn't a terribly difficult solve for the couple that I'd managed to do, but they were a lot of fun. I think there's going to be a great replayability here. So let me go ahead and open up everything completely, get everything out of the bag, and straighten up a little bit, and I can go into a little more detail about everything that I've got here. Okay, everybody is fully unboxed and out of the wrappers, so I can play with everything here. I'm going to start easiest and just kind of go over things again. The crazy floppy, I don't even know what to call it. It's a 3x3x1 floppy cube that can jumble. And to me, that's just a crazy addition to this puzzle. It turns very well. As far as I can tell, it looks like these corner pieces have stems that extend all the way into the center. And that's what allows them to continue to turn as long as they're attached to an edge. And these edges have these little tiny kind of oval leaf-looking pieces right next to the centers. And if I do a full turn here, that changes to an orange. Same thing happens if I do just that turn on this edge piece. So if I just turn this edge, you can see orange comes around, touching the red there. And if I finish that turn, now it's got red there. I have a feeling those are going to kind of get scrambled as well, and they're going to play a part in fixing this puzzle. You're going to have to kind of use those as guides to make sure you have these edge pieces in the correct places, in the correct orientations as you build things. The corners can never become edges, so there's not going to be any issue with like completely changing things as jumbled. And I think once you get it back to puzzle shape, the corners are going to swap in your standard floppy cube style 3 cycles. But it's a really cool floppy cube. It adds a kind of a interesting new challenge to that. And for the price, it was very inexpensive. And I think it's really cool. And I like the fact that it doesn't seem right. It doesn't feel like something I should be able to do, which makes it a very unique part of the solve. So I'm going to go ahead and just scramble this up quickly and just get things kind of out of place here. Let's go there and let's turn this. A quick scramble for sure, and even just after a dozen moves or so there, things just don't look like they should, which is a really cool part of this. I like this a lot. Even for being a simple puzzle, I don't think this is going to be a tough solve. I do think it's going to just be a new approach to how I tackle a floppy solve. So, very cool. Next up, I've got the MF8 Unicorn Cube. I had mentioned earlier that I have this already as stickerless. I don't like the stickerless one as much. The gaps in between some of the pieces show up a little bigger here because of the colors. This one, because of the black plastic, even if those gaps are present, they're harder to see, harder to notice. And having this right next to my crazy Unicorn Cube is going to look a lot better on the shelf. So I'm very happy that I picked this up. It turns really well out of the box. I wiped off some of the excess lube that was on there and doesn't seem to affect things too much. This is a 3x3 mod of sorts. You can do all of your standard 3x3 turns, but you can also, on 4 of the 8 corners, turn those corners. And because of that, you can mess up these little triangles in the centers, and you can split the edges, all of the edges, you can split in half. I say in half, but you can see what I mean. And these can only function if they're in the right place. So for example, if I brought this edge down into this position, because that line is facing the wrong way, I can't turn this corner anymore. Can't turn this corner. I can still turn this corner because this edge is facing towards that corner piece and creating these lines. So there is some strategy in scrambling this, and certainly some strategy in solving this. But it's not a difficult solve. The hardest part is really just wrapping your head around it and kind of figuring out what you're allowed to do. This puzzle looks great when it's fully scrambled, and I'm just guessing it's going to be a really cool looking fully scrambled puzzle with the black plastic. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a quick scramble here. The way I do this is some corner turns and then some full 180 3x3 turns. Those full 180 turns keep it so that your corners are allowed to mess up. And that just means you can get some new colors in new places. I got a pretty hefty catch back here. Might have to look at that. Looks like it's that internal... There we go. So that might be a slight problem, but shouldn't be too difficult. But just some more 180s on all these faces. And then stop every now and then and do some corner turns. Yeah, one of these inside corners is catching pretty badly. I'm not sure where it's catching, but that will either work itself out after I get a full scramble on here, or it'll be something I'll just have to take apart, take a quick look at. That's not a huge problem. Once you do some good 180 turns and get things starting to scramble there, then I like to just pick one corner and do some simple 3 cycles to swap in new pieces in the correct orientation so that I can still rotate this corner. So if I were to just bring this corner down, this edge down, for example here, it kills my line. I can't turn that corner anymore. But if I bring it down with this big piece at the bottom, now I can turn that corner. And I like doing just that on one corner for a while, and then picking a new corner and doing that again. Only thing is you have to make sure that the centers are also in the correct orientation so that these little triangles are pointing towards the corners so you can make those turns legally. Let's see, let's get this white one split up. The main reason I do this is just to get every edge as broken apart as I possibly can, kind of adding to the solve. That looks pretty good. This doesn't jumble, so once you get all things kind of broken apart like that, then it's just a matter of doing a regular 3x3 solve, taking advantage of that. And there you go. That's all mixed up. It's a great looking puzzle when it's fully scrambled and ready to go. So, um, these guys, I've done a little bit more research here. I had mentioned that these are two of um, two of three available versions of the crazy 2x2s. I have the crazy 4x4 that uses a similar mechanism to the 000 version of this. Uh, I have the 000 crazy 2x2 on the way from another retailer that package hasn't arrived yet, but these ones from Z-Cube came very quickly, and so I'm just gonna hold out and wait to get the 000, and there'll be another unboxing for that, I'm sure. But on the 000, which is how the center core of this crazy 4x4 works, you've got three faces that are zeros and three faces that turn as ones. So that moves. The main difference here between a regular crazy 3x3 one face is that on this, when I turn this one face, it also rotates the centers on the other side. What that kind of creates is that these inside pieces work more like the invisible edges of a 2x2 or a 4x4 that you can't see. So on this puzzle, for example, the inside edges, these pieces work as a fused part of a 3x3, for example. So for this, the 000 mechanism works as if I had a 2x2x2 block of a 3x3 fused together, so that when I turn this, I can't do individual turns of the down layer or the back layer or this front layer, because that part is all fused together. So this is what holds things together and creates the one faces, if I can find one, creates the one faces, and the rest of it, these free pieces that aren't a part of this 2x2x2 block, create the zero faces. It's hard to see, I know I don't have a bandaged 3x3 to use as a better example, and I'm guessing that on these guys, the bandaging is kind of just changed. So on this, the 011, this has a single zero face. So this white face performs as a zero face. And the yellow face, opposite this face, is a one face, but it also takes this with it. So when I turn that yellow face, it brings that inner circle with it. The rest of the faces perform as one faces, so I can move these and they don't turn the opposite face. So when I turn that green face, the blue circle doesn't move. Same for the orange and the red. So I think that on this one, the 011, the bandaged group of pieces that is kind of in play there is a 3x1 block, and I think I'm not 100% sure. I've only played with these for a few minutes, as long as it took me to open them up. But basically, there is another kind of group of pieces inside of this puzzle that acts as a bandaged group of edges on a 3x3. So that's going to play into how the solve on this is taken, how the approach to the solve is, and then it's a matter of finding free places that you can use to fix these outside corners as well. So I think it's going to be an interesting solve, an interesting take on a crazy solve, just because you have a zero face, but it's not a true zero in that these inner pieces can be moved just by turning the opposite face. So it adds some complexity there. On this one, there's a zero face here on the white and a zero face on red. And both of those zero faces perform the same as they did here on the 011, but on the 001, there's two zero faces. But if I turn the opposite one face, so here the yellow, it takes those circles with it. And on this red face, another zero face. If I turn the opposite orange face, it takes those circles with it. So I think on this one, it acts as if there was a 2 by 2 by 1 block on a 3 by 3. And again, I could be completely wrong on that bandaging. This is just my first kind of off-the-cuff opinion. So these are both going to be very interesting to solve and kind of work out where that bandaging is, how it takes place. The bandaging will be easy to spot because I think on both of these there's going to be one corner where you can't split things up. And that's going to help identifying where faces need to go, where colors need to go. And so it should make for an interesting solve and just figuring things out. So I'm going to go ahead and scramble both of these. I'm dying to play around with them. These turn very well out of the box. There's no issue so far with any catching or anything like that. The only problem that I could see is these circles, as with any crazy puzzle, could start getting a little loose and not wanting to make full turns when you turn things. And that would just be more annoying than anything. Wouldn't really be a problem. You just have to kind of line those circles up before you complete a turn here and there. So, pretty nice scramble there. And as suspected, this orange, blue, and yellow corner, nothing separated there. There's no way of separating any of those. So that's going to be my identifier for where the bandaging starts. And plus it's going to help me tell that this, whatever this corner is going to be my yellow face, my orange face, and my blue face. So it's going to help the start of the build on the puzzle. On the 001 here, I imagine there's also going to be another corner that doesn't separate. Even no matter how you do turns, no matter where you turn things, there's going to be no way of taking it apart. And there may actually, after looking at this, it almost looks like there could be a second one that has at least one inside circle piece that can never separate. And if that's the case, that'll help identify where the bandaging is inside the puzzle. So this looks great scrambled. These both look really cool scrambled. They add a great look to the 2x2 in general. And again, this blue, orange, and yellow corner had no separation on this one. So that's definitely helps me identify the bandaging, and it'll be fun to figure out. So on to the Bermuda cubes. I'm going to set these aside for now. After some quick research and just playing with these as I was opening things up, I think I actually got a couple of fluke puzzles here. I'm guessing these were assembly errors from Dayan. From the videos I've seen online and the virtual puzzles that I've played with, the Dion Bermuda Mercury and Venus puzzles should both have Fisher Cube style turning abilities. What I mean by that is, instead of these turning on a flat face like your standard 3x3, so a flat piece being the center, these should have a edge that functions as the center, just like on this regular Fisher Cube. However, on both of these, even though this I originally believed was going to be my center, and I have a line here, all the way down, all the way down, all the way down, should allow for a turn right there. But it doesn't. And the same thing on the Venus puzzle. I have line here, line here, line here, and here that completes that, and this should function as a center, allowing me to turn that. But neither one do. So I'm guessing this was either a fluke on the assembly line, or maybe they've changed the mechanism. I've got some questions out to a few other solvers and a few puzzle stores that can hopefully help me figure this out. But either way, I'm going to keep these. I'm not too worried about trying to return them or anything like that. They were also fairly inexpensive. And if it is just an assembly fluke, then I've got two puzzles that aren't terribly common and kind of add to my collection a little bit. So either way, I'm not too worried about it. I do plan on getting the ones that I was expecting these to be, if it turns out that those are available still, and this isn't a completely changed mechanism on Dayan's part. So, but I am going to go ahead and start scrambling these. All of these have different mechanisms because of the shapes of the faces. So this yellow face you see has one of these small triangles. I'm going to call these the small triangles because on this one there's only one Fisher style edge, where the edge comes off of the large size side of this triangle, and there's only one of those. It's got two regular looking edge pieces, and this face can turn and move around. Then on the other side here, it has a completely Fisher looking edge, where there's four of these Fisher type edges coming off of the center there. On the Venus puzzle here, for example, I've got what I'm calling a big triangle as a face, where I've got two Fisher style edges coming off of this triangle and then one regular. And this face can turn and move around. But all of the faces on these are completely different. So let's just see here. I'm going to take a quick look at everybody. So we've got the green faces there. Let's get everybody oriented the same way here. And do some dancing real quick. So the order I have these in is Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. So you can see all of the green faces there all have some different shapes. Quite a few of them look like regular 3x3s. But the more turning you do here, the more differences that are going to become apparent. So more triangles showing up in different places. And those triangles mean that the way you have to set these faces up in order to allow other faces to turn changes per puzzle. So they're all going to look a little different when they're scrambled, and they're all going to perform a little different when they're scrambled, and even scrambling them is going to be a completely different performance, because you're going to have to do some setup moves in order to make these faces work together, and you're going to have to do some careful planning to make sure that you can do 3 cycles and things like that. So all the faces look, some of them look similar, some of them look very different. But this should be some great puzzles in my collection, because I think they're going to have some great just resolvability, because they're going to be 3x3s with a twist. So it's going to make for some interesting solves and fun approaches to how I figure out these puzzles. I'm going to go ahead and solve a couple of these on camera, and then I'll solve the rest of them and give you a shot of that at the end so you can see what everybody looks like fully scrambled. So the Mercury, as I said, I was expecting this to have a Fisher type turn available here. Because it doesn't, I have to do partial turns on at least this Fisher face so that I have access to these faces over here and back here. But then on this yellow face, I have to do a Fisher turn here in order to have access to these groups of pieces. So it's just a matter of getting things organized and lined up so that you can make as many turns as you think possible. These all turned wonderfully out of the box. This one is a little bit loose in a few places, which also kind of leads me to believe that this may have been an assembly issue. Just because some of these edges kind of feel like they're going to pop at any moment, but even when I tried to pull some of them out, it was difficult to do, so I'm not worried about this actually popping on me. So that kind of gives you the basic idea here of what I was talking about, scrambling these, and they look great scrambled and mixed up. Let's go ahead and scramble let's do the Venus one too as well, because this one, because of these two Fisher style edges here, I have to turn this face like this to turn these two, but then there's a bandaging here because of the way this triangle points out. So in order to turn this, I have to move this face, the orange face, to either this position, or this position, so that I have a full line here to make turns legal there. So there is a lot of structural difference on these, and they make for some really fun scrambles. Even the scrambles on these are going to be a bit of a challenge, I imagine. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the filming for now and finish scrambling all of these. I'll cut back in and just give you my final thoughts, and hopefully these won't be as difficult to scramble as they are to solve, and they'll still be kind of fun to figure out. So give me a few seconds to scramble everybody up here. What a mess. But everybody is all scrambled and ready to solve. These Bermuda cubes were difficult to scramble, some of them especially. It took some thinking just to get things lined up and figure out what turns were legal. I did notice that on almost every single one of these, there's at least one corner that has two adjacent legal turn faces. So here, this and this are both legal turns. I had to get creative and use those on adjacent faces in order to make series turns where I could do a left turn and then upturn and back and forth to kind of mix things up a bit. I'm guessing that's going to play into the solve quite a bit as well. The only issue I really had with these was some of these Fisher-style edge caps, the larger ones here, did pop off while I was scrambling. Luckily, never more than one at a time, so I was able to put them back. I'm probably going to go through before I even attempt to solve any of these and just glue all of these on. It'll be a quick little thing. But overall, I'm incredibly happy with this entire order. So Z-Cube did a great job shipping quickly, packing everything very well, and I'm looking forward to putting my brain to work and seeing if I can solve all of these. Links will be down below in the description to where you can find all of these at Z-Cube, and I hope you enjoyed, and happy solving!